Light Talk. Lumen Brothers. Light Talk. Light Talk. Light Talk. Lumen Brothers. Light Talk.
Good morning. This is Stan in the hallowed halls of Gainesville, Florida, and you are listening to Light Talk.
Hi, this is Steve in Dallas, Texas, and today we're going to talk about all kinds of things on Light Talk, from picking equipment to getting in a fight with your client.
And this is Anne in San Clemente, California. And if you don't already know, you are listening to Light Talk, and we are the Lumen Humans. Have we come up with a good one yet? The Lumen people? The Lumen family.
You know, I don't think brothers is necessarily gender
Oh, I
specific. Maybe it is. I don't know.
So, Anne, since you're here today, where is our brother? Where is our missing David
Oh my
Jacques?
goodness. Do we always miss David when he's not here? He, however...
A lot.
I
We miss him a
know.
lot. Oh, boy, do we
But he
miss
gets
him.
to party it up in Florence, Italy. I mean, come on. Jealous.
Frenzy.
So jelly, right? He's in Florence. He's been there for maybe a week or so, and he's got a couple more weeks to go. He's working on the Flying Dutchman, I believe. Yeah, but it's been really exciting. David's been super generous, and he's been sending us, the Lumen people, he's been sending us photos and things. But actually, for our listeners, he's also been posting those photos to the Light Talk Facebook group page. So if you're not on there, where are you? Because we're waiting for you to join. You should get on there. And it's very cool. You see, light plots, load-in pictures, all kinds of cool things. He was hanging this fabric thing the other day he was showing us. So if you want to follow David's adventures, as we all are, you should check out the Light Talk Facebook group page because it's a lot of fun.
Who has a choice? It keeps popping up on my Facebook. David this, David that. Here's the Mac 300s. Here's the axe cores. Here's the box spoon position they built for me. You know what? We love him. He loved that he's sending us that stuff. And that theater's really interesting. I think I was in it once years ago. It's so bizarre. Like the balcony, it looks like the curve of the Starship Enterprise, and then the seats are like sunken into the balcony. I'm like, how does anybody see? I mean, it's really interesting to see how things, and it's a big stage, so it's fun to watch that.
Yeah,
it really is.
It's a really cool post. So David, we miss you, and we hope you're enjoying your new year over there in Italy. And
Come home, bring us food.
That's right, bring us some pizza and various other delicious things. So that's where David is. So I'm the lucky one that gets to fill in today.
What's that great drink that David loves over there? The limoncello. David, you love that limoncello. He brought some home last time. Bring some limoncello home for all of our listeners.
Excellent idea. Well, Steve, what do you have to tell us about today?
Well, actually, I had a question. I was going to ask Stan and you if you had any resolutions for 2019. It's the new year.
Stan,
I got
go.
two.
You go.
I got two. So one is personal and one is professional. Professionally, I really need to spend some time on my website, which I plan to do, although I'm struggling over what software and how to do it, and that's a long story I won't go into. And the other one is I'm looking forward to getting my 23andMe test back. So I'm having my saliva analyzed, and I'm going to know my ancestry, and I'm also going to know about my health propensities. But I understand that that's a choice, that when you get the report online, you can either click the button and open the window and find out about this thing or not. So that's going to be an interesting thing to do in the new year.
That's fun. We got some of those too for Christmas. We haven't sent them away yet. But I chose not to do the health thing. I didn't want to know. I just want to know ancestry.
Yeah, I want to know because I figure knowledge is power, and if it says, hey, you have a propensity for this, it doesn't mean you're going to get it. But then you can take sort of preemptive choices in your lifestyle, or you can't change your DNA, but you can certainly. But nurture plays as much a part as nature, from what I've read.
Let's see. For my New Year's resolution, professionally, I'd say, I don't know. I want to keep trying new colors, and right now I'm working on a light plot I try to get a new color in at least every show. And right now I'm working on a light plot that's sort of overlapping another show, and I'm using the new color on both of the shows, and I'm wondering if that's a problem or not. But I'm trying to find something that feels sepia in one show and the nicotine world in another show. So I'm trying something for those, and I don't know if it's going to work or not. I don't know if you two have a favorite color for that kind of thing or not.
Wow. Wow. That's tricky.
Yeah.
That's a longer conversation. Because what is the scenery and the costumes and the makeup?
Yeah, and everything turns amber if you use it. If you use the wrong one.
Yeah, yeah. That's a tricky.
Yeah. So
you can have the audience wear a filter over their eyes.
There we go. So yeah, Facebook fans, like if you have a good sepia color, let me know, and don't say chocolate because I don't want to do that.
No, that doesn't work.
It doesn't work.
It's really more. I think it's a lot about intensity too. It's about color perception. It's like tricking the eye.
Yeah. Steve, how about you?
I've got one simple one. I'm going to step up my game on the Hog and on the Grand MA. So this year I'm going to be a serious level 2 user of Hog and Grand MA. That's my goal. My short-term goal, though, is to be successful at IRTA. How many students are you guys looking for this year?
Oh, I can't wait for IRTA. I love meeting everybody so much. It's so exciting. I'm on their, what is that, the accepted thing all the time. I'm just so excited to meet everybody. But my school looks for 2 students in lighting, 2 in scenic, 2 in costumes, design and technology, and then 2 in technical direction. So that's usually who we're looking for when we get there. But I'm the one that recruits for lighting, so I'm super excited about meeting all of the lighting designers.
So we're similar to Anne. We sort of have this stated goal from 20 years ago, which was that we would have 18 students, graduate students, we would recruit 2 in each area, so 6 students per year. But you can't always get that. That's not always the way it works out. It's sort of an aspirational goal. And also the funding in Florida, even though we do have funding, it fluctuates. So we were talking before the show, no one's even told me yet how many students I'm looking for this year. I'll probably find out when we get back to work next week. So, but I enjoy, sometimes I talk to everybody and sometimes I'm more selective. It looks like there's about 20 or so lighting designers up there right now. So, or maybe more. I haven't been on accepted.
As of last night.
25 now? Yeah. Wow, you're really all over it.
I am.
So that's what I've got going on.
I'm only looking for 4, 2 in scenery, 1 in costume, and 1 in lighting. But you notice we're back at the Palmer House again.
Yeah, I haven't been there
renovated,
yet.
right?
I'm excited.
I bet it looks great. That's such a beautiful architecture, the original, and if they've restored it beautifully, it should be. Hope they improved the elevators. Those were a problem.
Is that why we were somewhere else? They were restoring it?
Yes, there was the beautiful lobby. They were doing a restoration, and I think, I enjoyed staying there. But we were always there when the high school United Nations was there. And so the elevators would get jammed up. So sometimes you could wait like 20 minutes for an elevator because there's so many kids for the high school UN or whatever it was. So maybe the scheduling is better. I also liked the Westin a lot as well. So I thought that was a nice hotel. So yeah, it'd be fun to be back at the Palmer House.
I'm excited about it. I'm from Chicago and I've never been there. So I'm finally going to see the Palmer House. And we're 2 blocks from Hamilton, so we can play the lottery. And not have to walk too far in the cold. Uh-oh, I just gave it away. Everyone's going to play the lottery.
I played when I was in New York. No luck yet.
I have played in 5 or 6 cities and never gone. So depressing.
Yeah.
Someday. Maybe this time.
It looks like I have the first question, and it is Angel in Hong Kong. And she writes, how would you categorize your own lighting style? That's a toughie. I was thinking about that, and I guess if I were going to say this is kind of foundational in my work, I would say raw. I really like a raw light. I use a tight color palette. I like a fat beam, so that's why I'm a Verilight guy. I like asymmetry. I guess I'm always looking, like every designer, I'm trying to find something unexpected for the audience. And I think I always look for something that's got a lot of punch to it. I can always dim it, but I can't make it brighter. So I guess that's, I don't know, that's not so much a style. you're kind of tied to the show you're designing, so I don't think you can impose things on it. But if I just have the kind of the building blocks, those are things I like, Angel. What about you, Anne?
I agree. This is a hard question. And this is, you know, I do an exercise with my students in our business class where I talk about what are the hard questions. And this is one of those things that directors ask you, like, what is your lighting style? And I'm not sure I'm a believer in a lighting style because, like you said, like, depending on the show, you light for what it is. Like, you're not going to light hairspray the same way that you're going to light the Nutcracker, for example. I mean, you might, but I just feel like it's hard to categorize your style. I guess if I had to pick some things that I sort of tend to lean on or that are really aesthetically pleasing to me, I think it would be sort of a very textural quality to the light. I'm like a gobo junkie. I love them. You know, I come from a Broadway background where, you know, if you don't have 30 or 40 gobos, you haven't lit a show. Because I think that's the musical thing in me. But I love texture of light. And so I love characters moving through light. It doesn't mean that I don't do a clean show now and then. It's a little sad for me, to be honest, because I miss that quality. But, you know, sometimes that's what's right for the show. So I certainly do clean shows when they're called for. But yeah, I think sort of a textural, like a strong textural quality for me and a lot of contrast is where I really like to sit if I have something that's a good show for me. Stan, how about you?
Well, yeah, I think I'm in agreement, but maybe I can put some other words to it. If I had to make a singular word for my style, which is really the antithesis of style, is I would say I'm chameleon-like. So I'm going to respond, and I hope sensitively, to whatever the piece is. So I think from an approach, I try to really be sensitive. I try to really, and I think all lighting designers do that, is to really feel what's happening in the scene and then to respond first and primarily to the needs of the moment. That's the question I'm always asking myself. What does this moment need to help the audience understand it? And that need is discovered through my own sensitivity. So I really try to pay attention to feelings and the feelings that are coming off the stage. But at the same time, in terms of workflow, I like to go in really prepared, like I've got my ducks in a row. But at the same time, once I'm in, I really like to be improvisational. I'm really quick to throw out what I thought I was going to do and try something else, all right, and discover something in the space. So that's sort of a working style. In terms of an aesthetic style, yeah, similar to Anne, I sort of lean towards the high contrast, to high drama. If I wanted to do uniform lighting, I would do parking lots, right? So I like drama, I like contrast. I totally agree with Anne's point about layers of light, about walking through broken light, fractured light, scattered light, all of that stuff. So, but I will say this: it's hard for me to sort of evaluate my own style. So, and that's just something that people have said about me, is that people who've seen my work a few times will often say, "Yeah, that palette looks like a Stan K palette." I don't know what a Stan K palette is, but I guess I'm drawn towards certain color combinations, right, or certain color mixes that maybe somebody could identify if they've seen my work a lot. But I don't tend to think of myself that way. But I do have colors that I like, and I do stay away from certain colors, and that's just my own aesthetic and instinct. But so if I had to put it to a word, back to the beginning, I'm like a chameleon. I'm going to be a different style on every show.
I was just thinking of your improvisation. That made me think of David, because he would say he works like a jazz player, right?
Yep. I'm same thing. Me
Yeah.
too. I feel like I'm very much a jazz player.
And I was thinking about the color thing you just said about, I don't know, I feel like there's certain colors we all learn to love and they show up. Sometimes I have to ban a color from my designs because I start using something too much because I love it so much. I'm like, Anne, come on, like do something else. But yeah, I feel like there's certain colors I don't use well, which frustrates me. And it's like cyan. For some reason, I can't harness the power of cyan. Like other people do
I
it
like cyan.
beautifully. Yes, and I'm always so jealous. So it's things like that. I think it has to do with some of my relative other color choices. So I think that's something I'm often looking at. Like I just did a show where I used some cyan. I was so proud of myself.
So I just thought of one. So like I have a color combination that I keep in my pocket that I pull out whenever there's an opportunity where I think I can use it. Like it's an odd combination, like magenta and yellow together.
Ooh, that's
right?
provocative.
But It is provocative, but I don't use it. But I just know I've used it before. It has a certain quality about it, and if I see an opportunity where, well, this might be a place to pull that out of the bank and put it on stage and see how it feels. There's things like that are sort of in your bank of things that you sort of develop over time. It's sort of like, I remember one time camping and with some friends, and we saw this tent in the distance through the trees. It was a moonlit night, and there was a campfire, and we just looked at it and we all said, okay, that image, store that away in your mental bank, because someday you might pull that up and use that on stage. So I think there's like a catalog that we all have that we pull from. And but that doesn't necessarily. But then again, if you talk about style, we talk a lot about Robert Wilson in my program, and there's a style there,
Right.
right? There's something unique about the way he uses light, but he's also doing the scenery. He's not just the lighting designer, but there is an aesthetic that is uniquely his that he's developed over time. I have to admit, I don't think I really have that.
I think it's okay not to. I don't know, Steve. What do you think?
I'm going to kind of, again, say I think this is a really hard question. When I think about style, I think there are designers that you can recognize their work on stage. There's no doubt about that. Sure. And I think it's very good work. And I think they get employed because of that.
Yeah.
I was thinking about from a scenic point of view, I was talking some years ago to John Lee Beatty, and he said he would pay real money to do something weird and abstract on stage. But he's the go-to guy
for the realism.
If you need a set with a sofa in it.
Yeah. Yeah.
And he gets hired for that.
He's awesome at it. Yeah.
He says that we read that book. I don't know if you guys know the book. And maybe I don't know if it's on our website, but it should be. It's Sculpting Space in the Theater, which is now out of print, which is interviews with in Beatty's interview. He says exactly what Steve just said. And Steve's right about it being a hard question because artists have styles. I guess designers have styles too, but we're not the originator of the art. If you were just doing, I don't know. I'm trying to think like, other than Wilson, can you guys? There's people who have a particular style. Even the way Hal Bingley cues, right? There's a certain style to it, a certain thing that you hire somebody for. But I don't know. It is a very difficult question.
And it's true. It's different maybe for a lighting designer than like we're often. I don't know if responding is the right word, but responding to the artwork that's on stage. Whereas, like you said, like a set designer is like the originator of that world. And so they're more concrete and maybe it's easier to see a style. I'm not sure. But I think our style is defined by other people, because they see the trends in our work in the same way, like we don't know what the fashion style of today is called until a few years pass and people say, oh, in 2019, they wore X, Y, and Z,
Yes.
But you do get hired, Anne, if you're really good at manipulating color, or you get hired if you're really good at manipulating white, if you're really good at making something industrial, as you say, or making something very stark or very abstract. So those things are recognizable, and we do get hired because we have worked in those areas and been successful in them. So perhaps that's a
true.
style.
And you can be known as more of a dance designer, more of a musical designer, more of a play designer. There's things that I think you can get known as, whether that's a style or not. Yeah, typecast. Yeah.
Yeah, but you mentioned something, Anne, about responding to the work, and I think it was Jane Cox. There was a great article, and I think we posted it on the Facebook page about women lighting designers, and some of them were speaking about that it's very much sort of maybe traditionally seen as a feminine response, but in reacting to the work, because in a sense, if you're a parent, are you a good parent? Well, you're a good parent, not because you have a parental style, but because you react and respond really well to the needs of the child, right? It's sort of that kind of it's that back and forth kind of thing, and I think that's what lighting designers really do. And if within that you create a uniqueness about yourself, then more power to you, But I don't know if I've got that. If anything's distinctive about me, I've been called Johnny on the spot. So like I'm the guy who calls back immediately. I'm very fast to respond and react whether it's in tech or whether it's just in general, just a workflow. That's not a style. That's just sort of a work ethic. So I don't know. There's just things that make people want to hire you because you bring a value to the table, whatever that value is, or your style matches that project. I mean,
Yeah.
who knows?
I'm with you.
Tough
Yeah,
question.
I turn everything in early. That's my working style.
There you go.
People like
Right.
that.
Yeah. Yep.
Well, and maybe that leads us to our next
Yeah,
question.
our next question is a great one from John in Chicago. And he says, how do you pick equipment? I feel like that's a great one for Steve to start on because you are so excellent at all the equipment knowledge.
Well, the way I pick equipment, there's two things. If I have, I'll be honest, if there is a ton of money on the line, then I'm going to stick with equipment that I know is tried and true and I know what it's capable of doing and it's going to be flawless. If I have my druthers, then I always like using new things. I like seeing what that new light is going to do. I like seeing what that new console is capable of doing. But basically, if I'm thinking about equipment from kind of a mechanical point of view, I'm looking for something, again, that has a lot of punch to it. I can always dim it, but I can't make it brighter. So I would rather have a whole lot of headroom on the equipment I'm using than come up short and just go, well, that's it. I want my lights to go to 11. I am old-fashioned. Being a Texan, then the two lighting companies I always spec are going to be High-End and Verilight. I want to keep the money in the state of Texas. I have personal relationships with both those companies, and I've known them for a long time, and I trust them. So I'm going to go with the local guys. That doesn't mean there aren't other really fantastic lights on the planet. There's no doubt about it. Both those companies have some serious competition, but I like the local companies, and I go with that. I work with the same one or two production companies that I've worked with for almost my entire career because I know what those companies are capable of doing. And again, it's not so much the equipment, it's the personal relationship I have with those companies, and I know they are always going to come through for me. They may not be the cheapest, but I know I never have to apologize for their work on the things that I'm doing. So I don't know if that answers your question, John, but that's my story.
Well, so most of my equipment specking is for other people right now, not so much for me. It's either at the university or it's for a client. And so my sort of axiom is it's always sort of a question of quality versus cost. So I look at the amount of money I have, and also it's the goal. It's sort of like, what are we doing with the equipment? So I've got to get clear about what we're doing. And then I got to get clear about how much money do I have, and then how do I get the most bang for the buck? And is a lower quality product okay for this environment, right? For what's going to be done with it, for the abuse the thing's going to take. And I get more of that because it costs less. Or do I need more equipment, right? Or can I get away with less equipment of a higher quality and have less to worry about? So you're always sort of got this balancing act. And then I think in general, for myself, like Steve, I'm a novelty seeker. So I'm always looking for something new. I'm always looking for something that hasn't been done before or seen before and I haven't used before, if it's for me. If it's for a client, I might encourage novelty seeking if I think taking the risk is in the best interest of the client. And we've done that. And I'll only recommend taking a risk if the manufacturer, as Steve brought out, are people that you can trust because of their reputation and because of their service. Because these are machines and they're going to need to be serviced. Do they stock parts? Are they going to be there for you? Do they obsolete their own equipment? How long is it going to last? So there's a lot of factors in that, but ultimately those are my primary sort of philosophies.
Makes sense. For me, I don't know. Mine goes back to actually Angel's question about lighting style. Like if I'm, if I really prefer a textural quality to light and I really prefer something that focuses on contrast, for me, both of those things point towards fixtures that have control to them, right? So I will spec an entire show of Source 4s, and there might not be a Fresnel in sight. That doesn't mean I don't believe in Fresnels. It doesn't mean I don't believe that they're, excellent for certain things, and I really respect people that use them really well. I just find that I personally like more control than that. I like something with a strong shutter. And same with my movers. Like, I have to have shutters. Washes don't do it for me quite as well. It's not that I can't, but I prefer shutters and gobos and all those sort of things. So I'm much more of a spot person than a wash person. It's just how my style has developed, I think. And then, as far as picking manufacturers, I agree with both of you. I'm sort of maybe I'm not as much of a novelty seeker as you two. Like, I'm much more with the standbys. Like, it's always ETC with the Source 4s, and then it's always the big guns, like, Verilight, Martin, high-end, like those kind of people. Because I trust their service, like you said, I trust their equipment. I'm familiar with them. I know how wonderful they can be. And again, it's not that other things aren't out there that are marvelous, but I just know what I love and what I trust. And it doesn't mean that if there was, you can try these things out, they're in the inventory, whatever, I would definitely try them. But I guess I tend to lean towards what I know, because there's a certain comfort level you need. I think there's a certain comfort level you need with your plot when you walk in the room. Because you're in the hot seat, I feel like you need to know things are going to work, and you need to know if something, you put a cue on stage and it doesn't work, that you can quickly try something else. So I always say to my students, 70% of your plot, maybe 80% of your plot is typically something you're comfortable with, and then the rest of it should be something you're experimenting with. So when I say I try to put a new color on every show, it's probably a couple of colors, but 70% of that color is something that I know and trust and know will look good together. And same with the equipment. I know, X amount of the plot looks great using these things, and maybe some of these are new that I haven't tried, but let's do it. So I think it's a balance of making sure you can do your job efficiently and quickly and perfectly, right? As perfect as you can. And then having that wherewithal to celebrate the artistic side of things by trying something new and looking for those mistakes. And especially if you're with a trusted director, you have the mobility to do that sort of thing and play with different ideas or new ideas. And but you have to find the time that's right for that and the show that's right for that. So I think that's probably how I pick equipment.
Becky in Kansas, who wants to know, when did you land your first internship, and what was the most valuable thing you learned from this experience? Well, I've been thinking about this for about a week, and I can't, for the life of me, I don't think I ever had an internship. So I'm going to answer the question a little differently, and we'll let Ann and Steve pick up on the internships. I've done summer stock, right? And that's, to me, was like an internship, because there really wasn't much money. It was sort of like a place to sleep, and maybe there might be some food. And I've done that on an island in the East Coast, just south of Rhode Island, called Block Island. I did summer stock. And this place was built by these guys who had this off-Broadway theater called down in the Riverside complex back then in the 80s. And it was on a marina, and they knew that they were committed to new plays, and that was kind of cool. So I was excited about that. 6 new plays in summer stock, if you could imagine. And then in between each alternating week, they ran movies, but they really didn't think out the logistics of that very well. So I've got some real war stories from that experience. But to get to your question about what did I learn from it, so this is the list that I made. What I learned from taking these jobs young in my career, internship, summer stock, was I wish I was better at asking the right questions. Had I asked the right questions, I probably wouldn't have gotten sick. I would have been better prepared. It was really devastating to me because I just didn't know what I was getting into. I also learned that it's really helpful to go into a project like that where you're starting your career to understand what your value is. So the people who are bringing you in look at you and they're figuring out what value you are to them, but you haven't figured out for yourself what your value is to them. So you can sort of negotiate from a position where you understand what you bring to the table. The other thing I would say that I learned from internships at a young age was take care of your health. this whole thing called life is a marathon, not a sprint. And so it's sometimes we're anxious to be great and be the hero and get it done, but that takes a toll on you, and that toll doesn't just disappear because we're not machines. It doesn't. So I think health is really important, and again, knowing your worth. That's what I took away from my early internship / summer stock experiences.
I think this is a great question, Becky, and I think I'm going to talk about my second internship, actually, which I think, Stan, like you said, I think summer stock internship, same thing, basically. But my first summer stock was at Interlochen Center for the Arts in Michigan, which was fabulous. I ran their junior theater. It taught me to be very independent and adult and all that stuff. But then my second one, which was an actual internship, was at Santa Fe Opera. And if you don't know, Santa Fe Opera is known as one of the hardest lighting internships to get in America. And so I got it my sophomore year of college, and I was very excited, and I was a really hard worker, and I was ready to go out there and, like, kill it, right? And so I went to Santa Fe, and it was everything it promised. You know, it was really grueling. It was really wonderful. It was, you know, a lot of great people. It was tough work. It was physically demanding. It had huge major designers that we worked with and for and all that sort of stuff. And so I was an electrician there. And I have to say, I actually didn't do as well as I would like to say. And I guess this is embarrassing, but now I'm admitting it on air that I had a bad review while I was there. I know. I think this is the word, like a bad review. It's the only time I've gotten a bad review in my life. And it was like jarring because I think I wasn't fast enough. I was going through some personal stuff that put me in a little bit of a depression. So I think I could have done a lot better while I was there. And I got sort of a poor review, and I was kind of shocked because I'd never gotten a poor review in my life. I was a straight A student, you know, or almost, and that kind of thing. And so it was a wake-up call for me as a person. Because I thought I was doing okay, but not okay enough for such a huge company like that, right? So that taught me to buck up a little bit and step up my professionalism. But really what was so great about that summer is that was me as an electrician, but there was this opportunity to be an assistant lighting designer because they had a program. I'm not sure if they still have it structured this way, but it was a young artist program where all of the like chorus members of the operas were leads for like one weekend. And so like the electrician interns stepped into other positions like board ops and assistants and things like that. And the lighting directors became designers, yada, yada. So everybody stepped up some. So I don't know why I was given this wonderful opportunity to be an assistant lighting designer, but I was, and I didn't know what it was. It was the first time I'd ever heard of it, really. It was the first time I'd ever done it, for sure. And after that poor review, I was surprised that I got it in general, and so I was pleased. And, you know, they told me what I needed to do. And the best part is that I completely excelled. Like I was the top of everyone else there, and it was so natural to me. I really loved the organization, the paperwork, the focusing, everything. They were even doing things like during our focus, the electrician was sort of a jokester, and he started doing things like dumping boxes of gel over us as we were focusing, like all these things to try to distract us. And I didn't even notice. I hardly remember it. I was just like killing it on the focus floor, you know? So it was really something that was a wake-up call. I mean, it became who I am today, right? That one opportunity became who I am today. It became the assistant lighting designer's toolkit that I wrote. Like, it's everything that I became. And so I just can't thank enough whoever powers that be decided that I would get that opportunity. But while I was doing it, I assisted an incredible designer, which later became my window and my doorway into the Broadway world, you know, because I had done so well. So I don't know, I guess my story is like, if you get a bad review, like, not, you know, everybody does now and then maybe, or at least I did. And so don't be afraid that it's the end or that you can't like move on from there and do something really wonderful with your career. So what Steve was just saying, you know, maybe I found that I wasn't as good an electrician because my heart wasn't there, but I certainly was a good assistant lighting designer, and I really discovered myself there. So the things you learn in summer stock are far beyond the imaginations of what you think you might learn when you're there. And I cannot stress the importance enough of doing that kind of thing, because it certainly created who I am today, and I'm just eternally grateful to that first experience.
It must be really difficult for you right now. I mean, you're a well-respected author, you're a respected designer, you're an educator, and now you've hit the pinnacle of your career. You're a Lumen brother. You're a young woman. What is there left to accomplish?
I mean, I don't know. But now everybody
See, she
knows
is a
I screwed
brother.
up once upon a time.
Do you think though?
That's a great
Do you think
story.
though that universities are bad about not doing that? I mean, someone took you, and you're probably making it sound a lot worse than it was. But someone took you and shook you by the shoulders a little bit, and man, what came out of that was kind of amazing.
Yeah, thanks. I'd like to think so. Yeah, and I won't name who was other interns with me, but those people are now huge, major worldwide designers, and they didn't do as well as the assisting as I did. So I'm not saying, oh my God, I'm the best, but I'm just saying it was something that fit well with my personality and worked well with my heart and my passions. And so you just have to find what that thing is.
She found your muse.
I found my muse. Yeah. Paperwork, that's my muse. Isn't that sad? I still love it to this day.
okay.
I love every second of it.
I saw the pictures of your lighting. It's not too
Oh,
shabby.
well, thank you.
You are listening to Light Talk with Steve, Stan, and the Lumen sister, Ann. And this week, Light Talk is sponsored by...
Last year, Illegitimate Panda introduced the budget-friendly Crippled Dragon moving light, the mover that only pans stage right. You remember, the flagship of Illegitimate Panda's new Crippled Lighting series. And now, just in time for the Chinese New Year, Illegitimate Panda unveils the Splosh. It's not a spot, it's not a wash, it's a splosh. Think about it. How many times have you turned to your programmer and said, I need something different, man. Not a spot, not a wash. I need something raw, something undefined, something that just, I don't know, looks broken. Now you have it, the Splosh. Forget about focus, forget about edge, forget about punch. The Splosh. It's the 6-inch Fresnel of the concert world. And like the Crippled Dragon, it's only $99 US. And that includes a double road case. For a limited time only, buy one and get a second Splosh for free. Just pay the shipping cost. The Splosh comes with an array of useful features. Dazzle your client with Splosh Zoom. That's right, a 60 to 90 degree variable zoom. Yeah, that's right. Think about that. Splosh Prism. For all those times you need a 270 degree spread and a 3-foot candle blast of light. All that and drop in the optional UV filter, and the Splosh is perfect for midnight bowling. How does Illegitimate Panda keep thinking this stuff up? Who knows? Who cares? The Splosh. Shipping now for February 5th delivery.
And now, back to Light Talk.
Okay, so it sounds like David's Ducks are at it again, and it's time for Let's Talk About. Okay, surprise topic. Let's talk about your favorite piece of equipment from 2018. Looking back over the years, you've been at LDI, you've been working for a year. What's your favorite product? I'll start us off.
Okay, I got one.
For me, I have two. I have a favorite product and I have a favorite company. So I'm going to go with my favorite product for 2018, and that's going to be the VL 2600. Their new moving light spot profile wash. The 2600, amazing light. And my favorite company for 2018, I'm going to go with High-End Systems. And I'm going to go with High-End Systems because they have stuck to their guns and they have invested, along with ETC, a ton of money in the Hog Factor competition. I think what they're doing for education across this country in moving light technology is amazing. So my hat's off to High-End Systems and to Verilight.
Okay, I'll go next. I just have one. I guess I have two favorite products. I'm in love with Luminate, the fantastic LED light diffusing holographic films that just do to light what physics says shouldn't happen. I love that stuff. And the other one, I've got another 3D connection drafting mouse. Now, I'm not talking about the 3D mouse, which I've had for a while. This is just a standard mouse, but it's designed for drafting specifically. 7 buttons, beautiful sort of middle button for your push down your wheel. It's just a beautiful thing. And I've been drafting a lot lately on a project, and it's really made a difference. The precision is fantastic. So 3D Connection drafting mouse and Luminate.
That's a tough one for me. I think I would say the well, we just purchased them, so they're in the box. I think they're my favorite thing of 2018. But it's the high-end Systems Solaframe 750.
Oh yeah, you're gonna love
okay.
it. Oh yeah. You're
Well, we
gonna
did a
love it.
shootout with a couple of things, and it seemed to be my favorite because it had many gobo choices. It had an effects wheel, which is one of my favorite things in a mover.
Yep.
It had a good zoom. There were a few little things we didn't love about it, like how it color mixed, and the demo we had sort of a halo, but they've told me that doesn't happen normally. So as far as the demo went, I was really happy with it in terms of its price. Its price points.
Price to quality
There we go.
ratio.
Price to quality ratio. Yeah. So I think that's something that I'm hoping we're going to love. I just got 4 little ones for our small theater, which has never had moving lights in it. So it's exciting to have something that we can, because they're starting to do musicals in our small space, which is only a 14-foot grid. So it'll give us some sort of options there. So I'm hoping that one's going to be my favorite. And then I love that Stan mentioned a paperwork thing, because I also want to mention, what is it called? The Savvy Symbol Section 2 I've been playing with. So it's not strictly a 2018 thing, I don't think. But if you don't know Josh Bengiat's work, am I saying his last name right? Josh, I'm so sorry.
Yep.
I know Josh, but I've said his name wrong for a million years. So if you don't know Josh Bengiat's stuff, go get his plugins for Vectorworks, because they are amazing. And Vectorworks has been buying several of them over the past decade or so. But my new favorite is the Savvy Symbol Section 2, because Savvy Symbol Section was like amazing. But the 2 is even more amazing because you can make a section symbol out of any 3D symbol that you have in your library. So it's really incredible, and that's something I'd suggest.
I probably should mention this too, since you brought up software. I was really pleased to see Cast Software and WYSIWYG make its software available free for students, although there's been yet another glitch. We just had to renew our dongles for spring because they're having trouble with the server, but that's supposed to be resolved in January. So making that software available for academics and students, I think, is also pretty fantastic.
Okay, I have our last question. Amy in France wants to know, tell us about a time when you disagreed with feedback you received from a client. How did you handle the situation? Oh, goodness. I've had this recently. I had sort of a poor situation with a director just a few months ago. And I think I've talked about this before. I think I just ended up, going with what she needed. Like, I gave her what I thought would be some of the answers, and she wasn't on board with those. So I think after, the most you can do is just sort of, support your decisions and offer up why you made those decisions. And then if the director or the client doesn't agree with that, then ultimately they're the ones that, have their name first on the playbill. So I typically, go with what they need after we've had a solid discussion. I'd say that's the short answer for my question. What do you guys think?
Well, I would just throw into that, sometimes people aren't the best listeners, so I would take some time and make sure you're hearing exactly what your client is saying, because maybe there's not a disagreement there. Maybe there's just a semantics. But I think Anne has nailed it. I would support that answer completely.
I think those are good points. I haven't had one of those recently, but I am thinking back to a once upon a time where I had a pretty clear just the director wanted one thing and I really felt something else, to the point where the director said, I hear what you're saying, I see what you feel, but that's not what I want to do, so please do what I ask. And I did it. I still felt it in my artistic soul, I felt it was wrong. And I had a choice about how I was going to respond to that situation, because she asks, how did you handle it? Not perfectly, but reasonably, because what happens is there's a tendency to want to backbite. There's a tendency to want to get bitter or talk about your feelings because the director ask you to do this and you felt something else. I did that very mildly, and I really tried to control that emotion. And the director, when they ultimately did write me a letter of recommendation, and in that letter, he talked about our disagreement, but then offered me praise and respect for after hearing me argue my points and me hearing him argue his points, and we did listen to each other. He then basically said, yeah, but I'm the director and this is what I would like. And he praised the fact that I went ahead and did it. And to his knowledge, there was no backbiting or anything like that. And for the most part, I because I respected the person, and even though I disagreed in that moment, I didn't backbite or gossip about that. And I think that's really important. So what it bought me by being civil is it bought me the respect of that person, and that person then was able to point to that about my character in the letter after the fact, which goes to Steve's point about sometimes a letter that's all about praising you for all the great things you did isn't as powerful as about something you did or how you responded in a difficult situation, because that's where your character really shows up. Everybody's great when things are going well. It's how are you going to be when things are rough?
That's a great point. It's all about mutual respect, right?
It is.
Hey, it's that Hammond organ solo that tells us once again you've spent another lovely morning listening to Light Talk. Be sure to follow us on Facebook and subscribe to our podcast. That way you will not miss a second of Light Talk fun.
No guarantee is offered regarding the accuracy of any statements or opinions made on this podcast.
But just in case you decide to litigate, we are trying out a new law firm this month. Their name is Hugh Emitting, Ernest Poton, and Chip on Boards, and they will defend us until our retirement funds are depleted.
Light Talk is written and produced by the Lumen Brothers and Sista, coming to you from Gainesville, San Clemente, and the Lone Star State.
And be sure to tune in next week when we discuss what was the biggest rookie mistake you made just starting out? What do you see as the role of theater? If you were lighting theater, dance, or music, what is the one thing each needs? And can ballads in shades of blue light be avoided?
All of that and the new sponsor. Light Talk is still broadcasting questionable Lumen knowledge and humor around the world.
We'll see you all next week, Saturday morning. Bye from Light Talk. David, we miss you.
Bye-bye,
He'll be back
everybody.
next time.
David,
Light Talk.